I know a crazy story that happened here in Flatbush. I would say about 35 years ago, where a girl had a Dibbuk, where another soul went into her. And how did they know she had a Dibbuk? Because she was talking without moving her lips. And she was talking, she was a girl, and there was a boy's voice. The Dibbuk. And so there's a machlokes, how could that be? Because it's brought down that the Dibbukim stopped happening since they were good. But anyway, to make a long story short, so the father called this big tzaddik, this big Rav, and the Rav looked at her and he saw that this taka, there was something very, very wrong. Her eyes were back, whatever. It was a very, very sad situation. And so they sent for these three big rabbis to come in there and take the Dibbuk with names, with shemus, to make the Dibbuk leave. They opened the window to make the Dibbuk leave. Anyway, to make a long story short, every single one that went into the room to try to get him out, the Dibbuk would say every avera that the person did. You're a rabbi, you stand there when the women go home for Shabbos and you looked at this one and you thought this, he ran out of the room. Next guy walked in, you don't treat your wife right, you do this to your wife, you do that, he left the room. He ripped all three of them. He saw everything that they did wrong. It's not Hashem. How could you see that? It's not Hashem, it's a Dibbuk. It's a neshama that's not a good, it's a stuck soul, right? And the answer is, when a soul is out of the body, a soul sees the other soul. On the other soul, you see everything. From one end of the world to the other. So in the end, how do I know this story? Right? I wasn't one of the three, no. What? So I'll tell you what happened. So I was very close to a very big tzaddik, Machluf Lasri, who was sort of my Rebbe. I was very, very close to him in Eretz Yisrael, in Beit Shan, and he was the biggest in Kabbalah. He was the biggest in Kameya. He wrote Kameyas for the Baba Sali. Very, very holy man. Very scary. I told the story. I heard it on the shir today. So they pulled it from 2-3 years ago. I'll tell you a story that happened with Machluf. I mean, I have a lot of stories of Machluf, but I'll tell you a story about Machluf so you understand that the less physical you are, the more spiritual you are. Like your question, you can't fake a real person. So they know when you're putting on a show. So I came into the first time I met him, this old man, he was 105 years old, lived in Beit Shan, Moroccan, Machluf Lasri, and I heard all kinds of crazy stories about him. And those days I was very into Kabbalah, so I wanted to know all the tricks. So you have to meet him. He was the king. He was the Rosh Hashiva of Mekubalim. Okay. So I walk in there with a relative of mine, and he's sitting across the room, and I walk in, and all of a sudden he yells at this relative of mine, you have to stop saying Hashem, this week's Pasha is about Nidarim, about making promises, and he starts screaming, you have to stop saying Hashem's name in vain. You're not allowed to say Hashem's name in vain. Now, this person, me, the first time we walk in there, what this person always used to say, that I always told this person, stop saying it, you're not allowed to say it, oh my God. Every 5 seconds, oh my God, oh my God. Every time she got a phone, oh my God. I said, you're not allowed to say that, you're not allowed to say Hashem's name in vain. I'm teaching you, so I'm allowed to say it, but you're not allowed to say Hashem's name in vain. You're not allowed to say, oh my God. You're allowed to say, oh my gosh. That's what, but you can't say Hashem's name. This rabbi didn't know this person, never spoke to this person. I never spoke to him. Just looked at her across the room and said, don't you ever say Hashem's name, you say it all the time. She looks at me like, did you talk to him? I'm like, first of all, he only talks Moroccan. I don't talk Moroccan. I said, no, I never said a word. He saw, right, he could see when all this, he was so holy that he saw the neshama. He saw other things. A guy that I brought in, he was like, you have in your drawer, this and that. It was crazy stuff. He might have showed across the world. It was crazy stuff. And my friends, I have Aiden, they were with me. They could tell you, yes, this happened. I was with Rabbi Wallerstein when it happened. Anyway, so this Dibbuk says, now I don't tell crazy, if I tell you a story, the whole world is watching it. So I'm not telling you a story that I made up because everyone's going to call me and say, right? So this is a story that I know that is true. So the Dibbuk says to the rabbis, who are now in the other room, and it's screaming, and it's like, you can't do anything to me. I am never leaving. There are only 2 people in the world that can hurt me. One of them is in Israel, and he's an old man, so he's not coming. And the other one is in Borough Park, the Rachmachritzner Rebbe, and he's very kaddish. He could do this, but he doesn't deal with this. So I am not scared, because the two people that could hurt me, that could take me out, will not take me out. So the minute they heard Machluf last street, they called Eretz Yisrael, they went to Eretz Yisrael, and they told them, you have to come to America, and you got to help this girl. She's mom's dying. You have to help her. And he said, no can do. Because the minute I leave Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael won't protect me. This neshama can kill me. I'm not leaving Eretz Yisrael, but I'll write a kameya. And he gave it to someone that I know. And he said, I want you to take this kameya. Kameya is parchment with names of malachim on it. He says, I want you to take this kameya. You cannot speak. You cannot speak a word. Travel to America. Go to her room. Open the window. Put the kameya on her chest. And he will leave. You cannot say one word. So this guy went. He comes to the airport and he can't talk. He cannot talk. So he comes to the airport with someone else, and this other person is like, he cannot talk. He's on a mission. They're like, right? And Lamaisa, he made it to the house, didn't say one word, and put the kameya on her chest. The window was shattered. Shattered. The neshama left the window, totally shattered the whole window. Gone. That was it. I know the story from Machluf. I know the story from the guy who carried it. I know the story from the guy who went with him. That this is what happened. They were standing in the room, the whole window shattered.